Hello, it is time for The Way It Is, where we're analyzing the big stories, those that have been making headlines the past several days and those that are still developing. And joining me in studio this morning is Ambrose Weda, who is a lawyer. On my immediate left, next to him is Ogla Karani, who's Treasurer ODM. Also with us, Secretary General of the National Alliance, Onyango Law. And also another Secretary General of the Wiper Party, and also Senator Mombasa County Hassan Omar. Ladies, gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Let's begin with President Uhuru Kenyatta's state visit to Uganda. He wraps it up today with that address to Parliament. I'll start with you, Senator. What is it you expect he says as he addresses the Parliament today?
I think we need to fast-track our movement in terms of the Union. I think Kenya has had the brand of our neighbors when it comes to the East African cooperation, because of the fact that Kenya has had a comparative advantage. So Tanzania has been an obstacle to a certain extent, Uganda. So I think what we need to do is to fast track the free movement of goods and services, and then to build also a union of common values, democratic values. I was hearing a Uganda member of the opposition hoping that Uhuru will reiterate Obama's remarks to the African Union that, you know, you should not cling into power indefinitely, so that you need to leave when time comes. And I think there's that general sense that, great as Museveni might have been, and in fact I was once his greatest fan, read his books, Sowing the Mustard Seed, you know, imbibed part of his revolutionary dogma. I think right now he's overstaying his welcome. He's beating the opposition into submission, clubbing it left, right and center. He has a stolen election on his lapel. So I think it's high time also Museveni made room for change in Uganda. But I don't think Uhuru will say that. But I had the opposition legislators. That shows how Kenya, within our Eastern African region, is expected to offer leadership. So it's like, in quotes, Amini Obama visiting a tyrannical state. So therefore the expectations are much higher. But I think more or less the more easier subjects for East African leaders is about commerce and goods and services. So I think that will be the focus of his address.
So, Olo, do you see the president biting the bullet with that particular dicey issue? Because on one hand, I mean, they have known each other for a long time. They're seen to enjoy a good relationship, the two presidents. But on the other hand, the reality on the ground, as Senator has described, is glaring.
I think as a people, as a region, there are a lot of issues that affect us that the two presidents of the two countries need to come together to discuss. And we must accept that within the time span that the president is going to be there, it is not going to be sufficient to basically discuss everything that under the sun we should discuss.
But in his address he could make it clear, as Obama did, that you are not president for life. Opposition needs to have its space to operate, just as is in Kenya.
Most important to us currently are issues of trade, the issues of the East Africa protocols that must be addressed.
Democracy?
There's war in Southern Sudan, which is killing lives, which is taking away lives, issues that must be addressed. Of course, there are issues of democracy. And democracy, it depends on how you want to see it. Democracy does not mean that someone has to do only 2 terms. It depends on how you have articulated your laws. If these people, the British don't have, the British don't have term limits for their prime ministers, okay? So if the Ugandans don't have prime ministers, we are not about to interfere into their internal democratic machinations. What the president probably would have acted on if need was that elections should be periodical, they should be credible, and they should be transparent. So for us as a leader in the region, we are more concerned about issues of trade and commerce. We are more concerned about integration issues. And remember, Southern Sudan, they want to get into East Africa. They're already actually in Eastern Africa. And it is at war. Lives are being lost. Those are very critical to us. Democracy, of course, is very important to us. But it depends on how you perceive it. The opposition perceives it that someone should step down. But we say, if the Ugandans feel that periodic elections, fair and transparent elections are critical to them, that is it. Term limits is not an ingredient, is not a compulsory ingredient of democratic ideals.
All right. Ogla, on the same.
I don't expect Uhuru to talk to Museveni about corruption, because how can he go and even talk to a neighbor when his own country is safely laden on corruption. I don't even expect him to attempt to talk to Museveni about ending his term, which unfortunately the opposition in Uganda are hoping that he will do that. He cannot do it because Uhuru himself, even with the introduction of, although he has not introduced, but looking at the new KDF bill, it is obvious that the purpose is to sustain Uhuru in power as much as they can. It may not happen in Kenya. So I don't think he has any moral authority to say all that. I have a feeling that Uhuru went to Uganda. One, I guess it is to just go and validate himself with his neighbor, realizing that Tanzania is going into hands that it may not be comfortable, and the opposition in Uganda is getting stronger and the elections are coming up. I don't think there is anything more. Talk about trade, talk about all the others, they've met all the time. If they were going to stop this trade issue, or rather this Sudan issue, they would have done it when they met many times in Ethiopia, in Kenya, in Uganda. If they were going to implement the trade issue, Kenya and Uganda has had the best, so to speak. The relationship has been robust in matters of going towards East African opening commercial routes in East Africa. It would have been Tanzania that I would have expected Uhuru to go and try to talk with them, because they've had issues with us. So I'm not expecting any of that.
Whether that's a grim picture she paints on this state visit.
I think she's talking as the typical opposition. President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta has gone to Uganda as the President of the Republic of Kenya, fully funded by the taxpayers of the Republic of Kenya. So he has gone 100% to pursue the interest of Kenyans. That is number one. Security. Fighting terrorism. We are all fighting in Somalia, and local and regional. That is priority number one. Number two is trade. Imbalance of trade. I see a lot of Lugazi sugar in our markets here, affecting mice on the sugar and other areas of smuggling. Is going to address that. Free movement of people. And then peace in the region. South Sudan, here, around. So things like talking on behalf of the opposition, maybe may give that to Honorable Raila Odinga or your party leader Kalonzo Musyoka to go and advise the opposition. Otherwise, President Uhuru is there as our president, and if he went there to advise the opposition or talk on their behalf, it would be out of order. And I can assure you, our president would not make those small mistakes.
Why would it be out of order to talk about the importance of democracy and to allow that to thrive and not to clamp down on that space?
Now, let me tell you, importance of democracy. As a president, there is what we call internal interference. You saw President Obama came here. He was prodded by the opposition to come and talk about, and he told him in the face, support your government, work hard, and if necessary retire. I do not think President Uhuru has gone there as a regional prefect. He's gone there as a president of Kenya, prime and willing to serve our interests. So the opposition, they can do their game the way our local opposition do their games here. If they lose, they claim they have lost and they have been robbed of victory, too bad.
All right,
one of the things that is very traumatizing, listening to the two gentlemen, is the same things that have bedeviled Africa many years. Africa needs governance. Our associations must be in common values. These guys talk about trade. How do you trade? The most industrialized countries in the world are also said to be most democratic. Some of. China is an example where they have a system that might be democratic, but they've dealt with the vices Olga is talking about, corruption, the kinds of excesses. They execute people for corruption, so that the public interest is safeguarded. So I think what happens is when we Africans are blinded by these issues about trade and forgetting that we must have associations based on common values. But it is not right for Burundi to pretend that it can violate a constitutional imperative and still get away with it because we are looking for biashara. You will be trading on dead bodies.
So you argue the president has that moral authority to be able to speak to these things there. However, Ogla argues
I agree with Ogla. Uhuru Kenyatta.
Say he has the moral authority.
Uhuru Kenyatta, Kenya has leadership within the region. It's not. I said Kenya. Kenya has always been. Kenya has leadership, but you see the thing is, there will be certain things your CEO can talk about. Maybe a successor CEO might not have the same value system, so therefore he or she is much more constrained about speaking to some of those issues. So what I can say for a fact is Kenya has leadership in the region. But this leadership cannot only be about fighting ICC and trade. I agree with Weda on matters of security and Al-Shabaab in the region. That's fundamental. Any president will have to deal with it. Any regional leader who comes here or international leader has to address that issue of the insecurity in the Horn of Africa. But on the totality, I think there's a point at which we must anchor ourselves. But I agree with Olga. I mean,
so what is democratic credentials? Because initially you said he has that moral authority to go there and speak to these issues, and now you're saying he doesn't have that moral authority.
It's okay, you're not listening to me.
I am listening to you very well.
There is an opposition person who, listen to this very carefully. I said there's an opposition, I had some opposition legislator saying that they hope Uhuru will reiterate Obama's remarks that he do not cling on to power indefinitely. But I said I don't think he has the capacity to do that. Those were my assertions. So that does not mean moral authority at any cost. But that I agree is the moral authority Kenya has in terms of leveraging its leadership in the region.
So basically, you sometimes as the opposition, you tend to confuse what are these values or what are these democratic values.
So give us clarity.
Yes, thank you.
Give us clarity.
Democracy does not limit you to term limits. Democracy is bigger than term limits. We have got some of the most democratic nations which do not have term limits. So it is the will of the people actually to be governed according to how they desire. So if Ugandans have not marshaled enough numbers to say that a president must have term limits by way of legislation, so be it. That is their democracy.
Okay, he's not getting he's not getting the difference between values. Values is a broader sense than just democracy.
If only
values.
If you appreciated it that way.
Values. I kept saying values. I didn't keep saying democracy. He keeps limiting term limits. Values is a broader definition than democracy. Democracy is one value.
Then he would also understand that the president of Kenya is not a prefect of the region. He's a president of the Republic of Kenya, and when he goes there, he goes to represent the interests of this country first and foremost.
And we'll be covering that speech later on for you, so do stay with KTN News for the same. Let's move on along to matters here at home, and the EACC bill that been returned to the National Assembly by the President with a memorandum. And one of the key issues that has been cited is that there has been removed a panel that was required in the setting up of the commission, bringing in the commissioners on board, and that now the PSC has been mandated the role of getting them in office. What are your thoughts on this one, Ogla?
On the EACC?
Yes.
Where I'm standing now is whatever happens, I feel like the EACC has been mutilated enough. The commissioners are not there. The secretariat do not have as much powers to do what is expected of them, and yet the country is completely choked.
What has happened to their powers?
I mean, there is no it's not a complete organ as we see today. We only have the secretariat. We don't have the commissioners. And even though that secretariat is going through a lot of anxieties because most of them are threatened all the time. The secretariat themselves have actually said that their lives have been threatened. Before the commissioners left, they even said their lives have been threatened. So I feel we are just going the way of Ringera, we are going the way of Lumumba, we are going the same way. The same history that has happened in Kenya is just being repeated. And I even think the reason the president returned that bill back to parliament was because it became clearly apparent that the only reason that Alaki Wako was supposed to be suspended or sacked for that matter was because he incriminated Engineer Kamau And it was so obvious in Parliament. So he realized, and we all made noise as the opposition, that it was all about defending a tribal person. It was not about fighting corruption. So personally, I feel it's neither here or there.
Okay, you were looking astonished by that claim.
I don't understand where defending a tribal person comes from. Does it mean if we defend an Otieno, then we are defending a tribal person? If we defend Kamau, we defend a tribal person? But that is beside the point. The issue is, the president has returned this bill, and you remember when the commissioners were removed. They were removed for being ineffective. And the position has been, there has been an outcry that the EACC should move fast, it should be effective, should be old. And now and again people claim, people tend to propose that the PSC seem to do a better job. They have got expertise, experience in public service personnel recruitment. So I think maybe for the first time the president feels that there could be a problem with the way we are recruiting these commissioners. Let us take it to these people who have got all this expertise and experience, so maybe we could get the right people. Because every time we have got these commissioners, every time we have issues with their performance, we want to kick them out. So the fight against corruption in this country does not gain ground. So I don't think it is such a bad idea. It could be new grounds being broken, but in the interest of the country, let us move fast enough and see how we can reconstitute this body first and foremost. But the issue of bringing that Kamau was being defended is neither here nor there. After all, remember the member of parliament who brought this issue of removing Halake does not belong to Jubilee.
Okay.
It belongs to CORD.
Your thoughts on this one, Senator, on whether, because there are those who have argued in terms of PSC, is that then it's executive largely also being involved in the process of recruitment. Do you share that concern?
Independent commissions are governed by about 3 or 4 principles. The independence of the commissioners, the independence of the recruitment process, the independence of their budget, the independence of their mandate. Those are some of the principles that govern independent commissions. That's why, let's say, KNCHR is a level A NHRI, National Human Rights Institution, on the basis of those ingredients. And I think there is Chapter 15 outlines the appointment of commissioners. And if you look at the constitutional article that establishes the EACC, I think at the very end of the chapter on Chapter 6, it does say that this shall be as to Chapter 15 commission. So I think we need to look at the constitutionality of that appointment, because then you do not want that, as you put it, executive interference, because commissions, part of the commissions, their independence is safeguarded also in terms of the independence of their recruits. I remember when I went to the KNCHR, we were in the final phase of either absorbing or re-advertising positions that were hitherto secondments from the PSC. So I think it's important in terms of ensuring that independence in terms of the recruitment or in terms of an ideal independent commission pursuant to Chapter 15, which sets up independent commissions and sets up the procedure for appointments. And there's a general saying, issue right now that needs interpretations of lawyers. When a president rejects a bill, does he say he does not agree with a certain clause of the bill, or is he in a position to add a little more things and then brings a memorandum with a whole set of amendments which were never in the first place contemplated in the original bill? Our interpretation is then that the president is abrogating a lawmaking role for himself, whereas he is either to, let's say, if I give you this bill, I say I reject section 19, and these are my reasons for rejection. Then you bring the memorandum. To overturn the president's rejections, you need at least 2/3 of the members. But you then don't say, I also propose so and so and so and so. So I think what happens, we need to also to start, looking at this bastardization of the Constitution, where the executive is also taking a lawmaking function unto itself.
Okay. On EACC, before we go to that, because we go to court seeking legal clarification on those particular matters, but first on the EACC.
I think one thing which is clear is that the president wants to fight corruption. He's shown it, but to do this he needs parliament. Parliament sacked the commissioners. Then again now they sacked the secretariat. Okay? They did their own bill where now the commissioners are part-time and they want to sack that. This has gone to the president. The president has looked at it and said, no, we are not getting it right. So the return of that bill, in my view, Parliament should now leave out emotions. They look at the bigger picture of dealing with issues of corruption and the best way that can be done. Instead of going through legal circumlocutions, the ones that are being proposed by the opposition, this one is that and that. Corruption is a big thing and is choking this country. And the president has given the go-ahead. Let us all join and avoid politicizing it. The rejection of some of the provisions of the bill, in my view, is correct. We need to have a fairly independent commission. But that independence conferred by the law is not enough. You need people who are mentally, spiritually and physically independent. People who have the bone marrow to join the president in fighting corruption.
Okay, so address what Senator Hassan has raised,
yes.
Because they, as court, they're moving to court, and the issue is once these bills go to the president and he's returning them, he's not only, saying I disagree with these elements of the bill, but coming up with new proposals. And in terms of numbers, you have Jubilee having more numbers, so that 2/3 has become an issue to raise. So there's a constitutionality issue of it, or whether the president has powers to do that in the first place.
Now, the president has powers to say, look, I disagree with this, because he's actually the goalkeeper, the custodian
Yes.
for the people of Kenya.
So he disagrees on one hand, but does he have that power to add other elements?
Now, I want you to look at this way, that the president or yourself or any other person can make suggestions. The ultimate decision rests with Parliament. The president can make 1,000 recommendations. But if Parliament looks at it and says, no, we are not making this, we are not making... It is actually upon Parliament to take the final decision. It's not upon them, some of them, to deviate and go to court. Court should go to Parliament and say, look, let's marshal ourselves together and reject this one and this one suggested by the president. They are just gerrymandering over, and then this will lead to a longer delay in having the commission in place, and the fight of against corruption will continue being delayed. So it is on Parliament, both the National Assembly and the Senate, to look at it and reject what the president.
Let's hear from Ogla. I'll
just
come
one
to you.
intervention.
Ogla, please.
No, I just wanted to say, we have seen this drama. I wish we did not have history, then we could be giving some benefit of doubt. We have seen this happen in Kenya for many years. Now, the whole art of EACC itself, we saw the commissioners being called to State House, called by parliamentarians, being asked to take other jobs, all in the agenda to dismantle the Anti-Corruption Commission. We had some of them saying they were offered jobs out of the country so that they could leave these positions. At the end of it, ultimately, we had the chairman who was so firm and insisting that he's not quitting, finally giving up because the pressure was too much. We saw this same Anti-Corruption Commission behaving, in my view, I don't want to say illegally because I'm not a lawyer, but I felt like they were behaving like people that were not confident of their independence. Part of it were running to State House with a list that had not even been comprehensively researched and investigated. Some of them were disowning that list. Others were writing letters about themselves. The whole matter is this: there is a lot of executive interference in the fight against corruption.
Who initiated the bill to have the secretariat sent home?
You asked that the last time.
Yes,
a member of the opposition
what
did that.
you said at the time was that they were acting in their own capacity. So also these are the individuals that are linked to the executive. One could also argue the same thing, that they're acting in their own capacity. So why is it right to say on one hand an individual is not working for an entire coalition or group, but it's easy on the other hand then to say that we paint this broad brush approach by government or by opposition?
Personally, I have no problem with whomsoever. Even if Senator Hassan Omar today had initiated that bill, he would have done it on his own conviction. But let us look at the broader picture. The broader picture being fighting corruption in Kenya. That bill may have been initiated by an MP from our CORD coalition, but if we can replay that debate today, we will see the people who supported that bill. It was supported specifically because the Secretariat, Alaki Wako, was mentioned so many times because he accused people from central Kenya.
All right.
That was the whole issue. So personally I feel the war against corruption is not being genuinely attacked in this country. I mean, from just that foundational issues I've said, the commissioners were talked, coerced, all those things.
Your point is
who can convince us?
Let's take this back, Onyango, to the president and the manner in which some of these bills are being sent back to Parliament.
I think, Sophia, let us look at the lawmaking process in its entirety. Parliament has got the ultimate responsibility to make our laws. On our own, we give the president powers to look at them, and when he does not agree with particular sections, to return it to Parliament with a memorandum. What is a memorandum? A memorandum could be a justification or an explanation as to why he does not agree with that. And he is not limited to not suggesting that I do not agree with this and I would also propose this. So as my colleague Weda has said, remember, even when the president returns this thing back to Parliament, he is not forcing it down their throats. They still have to sit, debate it, and if they have the numbers, they pass it. If they don't have the numbers, then the law takes its full course. So I think the president is perfectly in order according to the constitution, which we gave ourselves just the other day, championed by most members of the opposition currently, to return a bill to Parliament and make recommendations on what would make it most effective. If Parliament still fails that they stand their ground, they raise the numbers.
So your issue, Senator, is that raising the numbers is the toll.
It's not a question of even raising the numbers, even if you had them. You see, they talk as if they are living in a vacuum. They know the fools they have in Parliament. But anyway, that said and done, the truth is, if the executive wants to initiate any legislation or amendment, they bring it through the lead of majority so that it goes through the whole paces of Parliament. And that's, in fact, most of the bills in the National Assembly are initiated by the executives. Therefore, there is the parliamentary process. They come for first reading, second reading, the committee of the whole, third reading, and they go to the presidency. The presidency does not suggest a whole wish list of amendments at the very tail end of the bill. And I think that's our two colleagues here, both lawyers, and to be sincere to rule of law principles. That only happens in Kenya. And now you're trying to justify what a memorandum is. The memorandum is simply the article setting out the justifications either for the rejection or particularly for the rejection, because either you assent or you reject. There cannot be any other further constitutional proposals. If the president wants to bring constitutional proposals, he generates them through Parliament, through the leader of majority in the House, who's a Jubilee member, and they therefore can go through the paces and pass the same amendments in a record time. But I think it is just wrong to set a precedence that you can amend. And one thing we tend to do is to live in a vacuum. I personally agree with whichever member suggested that proposal to remove the Secretariat. When Weda says Parliament sacked, I mean, look at the State of the Nation address. The President is the one who set the ball rolling for his Jubilee coalition to sack the members of the EACC. And in addition to that, there was a report which even had said that petition was baseless. And there is testimony that the Jubilee members were finally called to State House, and they altered the outcome of that report, and the CORD membership voted against the removal of the EACC membership. And when the tribunal was set, I think Nunu Matemo and Esther Keino took it upon themselves to just step aside and thought that they should just leave this facade of a process take root. So when they talk about Parliament as if it is a house of, particularly the National Assembly, as if it's a house of star-laden debaters and thinkers. They know that their parliament is with duales and the rest of it, and they know for a fact that this has been a tyranny that has been abused even to violate the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya, which the courts have resisted.
You have a point.
I think my friend Omar and the opposition, they really want to see the hand of President Uhuru at every corner, especially when they lose. The same president sends in the name of Elizabeth Juma and says,
Monica
Juma. Monica Juma says,
Yes.
I really want this lady, please give her to me, I need her. The same parliament, the same Jubilee people, the ones they call fools, they tell the president in the face, no.
Because it was not given
Now,
the slush fund.
how comes,
She was not given the
how
slush funds.
comes when the same parliament, out of their own fear, they remove Mumu Matemu and the rest, then they blame it on the president? Why can't we
Because
just
Monica
fight the
Juma
and accept?
was not giving them slush funds.
When you lose, it is the president. When the president loses,
you pretend to live in a vacuum. Like you just hold yourself up in your office and do not know what is going on in the country. You're talking from a point of ignorance.
If only our brother controlled this anger, we know he lives in the solid earth. We live in a
Which
vacuum.
anger?
But nothing stops the monarchs of this world from defining a memorandum in the constitution to limit the president if they think the fools are going to pass it according to the president's wishes. And if the fools are majority, then so
Majoritarian fools.
and they will pass it that way. We have a reason for which we do one man, one vote. And when you lose at the vote, you lose in parliament, you have lost before Kenyans. Please.
Can I just say something about the Monica Juma issue? You know, I wish we could continue being real. The issue of Monica Juma even took a tribal line. It therefore emerged that most of the people who are refusing Monica Juma were parliamentarians.
I don't want us to go back to Monica.
The issue is, because we have given an example. It was all about the fact that she was constraining parliamentarians from recruiting their own people and from giving them the weekly money for going for the fundraisings that we always talk about. But more than that, there was a whole issue about tribal. She comes from a region that the other community, I remember I read it in a newspaper, I don't know which newspaper, where a community in central Kenya were complaining that the president is bringing more people that are not from their tribe. So it just took a tribal line.
And we did canvass those issues at the time when it was a big story. Now it appears the waters have quietened and we'll wait for what will happen as far as she's concerned. But let's talk about the 27th of August deadline that's fast approaching for the bills. We have about, I think now 16 days to go to that, and there's now an extension that we're seeing a number of the members come out to say. First, it's inevitable, there must be an extension because there's a lot of bills, 28 in total, that need to be passed by then. But then there's a concern that there are people who have on purpose ensured that there's this sort of delay to allow for that extension. Do you agree with those sentiments, Senator?
One of the things is our sense of planning. I think we have a Constitutional Implementation Commission which we have totally ignored. In fact, they used to do what is called tracking of bills so that they're able to meet the kind of constitutional limitations that we aspire for. Unfortunately, that has been thrown out of the window. In fact, a lot of bills lately are being generated, constitutional bills, without the input of the CIC. I have my own issues about not the CIC but the chairman of the CIC appearing sometimes to appear very leaning towards in a political sense, and I'm happy that they are not seeking an extension of their term. But it was imperative at that point that they continue to remind Parliament, particularly the National Assembly, because most of those bills are bills of the National Assembly, that there is a constitutional deadline to be met when it comes to these bills. So I think what happens is if you want chaos, is to expect now the fools I refer to pass 28 bills in 16 days, because some of the things they do are extremely foolish. Extremely. We don't have any other name for foolishness. You know, I wish I had a better name. In fact, I wish there was a worse name than foolish, because I think you cannot just do that as a person with some minimum reason to do the type of things that we see them doing on a regular basis, abrogating the Constitution, leaving a lie, you know, approving things that should not be not justifiable even under common sense. Minus common sense, you're foolish. So I'm saying the 16 days definitely cannot allow us to run through the paces of the bill. So therefore, I think it is imperative that we extend the time limit.
It has become a blame game. Who would you blame?
I blame Parliament.
Parliament?
Because that's the principal responsibility. The principal responsibility is Parliament in its entirety. Because there are some bills that require the input of the Senate. I think one bill, at least the community land bill, that touches, the Senate disposed of it just before it went on recess. But I think then there's the need for the benefit of the input from the National Assembly. Because we don't want to start rushing these bills in a manner that, you say, today we're extending the sessions of Parliament and just start to rubber stamp every other thing.
But what about the drafting of these bills? I mean, do all of these things happen within Parliament, or are there other stakeholders and players in this?
Where bills emanate from is either line ministries, or from the CIC. CIC can generate bills. That's my reading of it. And if any other agency or line ministry generates a bill towards the fulfillment of a timetable or schedule put together by the Constitution, then the CIC needs to speak to that bill, because the CIC has a mandate, Constitution Implementation Committee, to commission towards inputting into bills that have constitutional timelines. So my own assessment is, in Parliament, nothing stops Parliament to originate bills on its own volition. In fact, it is a function. We have generated so many private member bills. I have a private member bill. A lot of my other colleagues have private member bills. In Parliament, people have private member bills.
Okay.
So I think what we need to do as we move forward, even as we seek this time extension, we need to have a timetable as to how to dispense of these bills in a timely manner, because one year extension is allowed by the Constitution, because it envisages these types of a situation, and that should be the final.
Okay. Is that how you see it, or no?
Basically, let us agree that there's no way out of it other than through an extension, because the timelines do not agree. And let us say that this time we should give the timelines. Whoever is responsible should also provide Parliament with how he intends to meet those deadlines. As to who to blame, I would not say Parliament takes the full blame as such. I would say the drafters, the line ministries, because all of them...
And it's in the Attorney General as well, his name being roped in.
Yes, they all must take the blame, because if this particular bill was to be generated by the line ministry, they should have been constantly reminding it or bringing it to the door of Parliament. Then we'd be having a different story. We brought it to you, you refused to pass it. Or if it was to be done by the AG, then the AG should take the ultimate responsibility. So my position is, there's no way out. We must extend this period, but let us not just extend it through a blanket extension. Let us extend it by giving very strict timelines within which to achieve each of those bills, in respect of whom which we would have extended the timelines.
Ogla, you have a comment on that?
Yeah, let me talk like as a voter. I don't want to fight the fruit that has become sour. I want to also take this blame to the people of Kenya. The parliament that we have today, or the parliaments of Kenya progressively, have continually failed the people of Kenya. And every time after elections, the Kenyans admit that we truly have been betrayed by our parliamentarians. But why do we vote them in? Why do we vote some of these people in? Because of their money? Because of their tribe?
So if the calls, the senator calls them, what makes the voters?
Exactly. So the people of Kenya, the Mwananchi of Kenya, like myself, who is a voter and is out of Parliament, should be able to ask ourselves these very hard questions. We cannot be electing people, and when they go to Parliament, we all now sing the chorus that they are wrong, they are not performing. Let us also say what informs our decision to elect these people, because factually they have failed. And one more thing I keep wondering why we do not pursue in this nation is the fact that the Constitution has given independence of roles. The Parliament, the legislature is assumed to be independent from the executive. The judiciary is assumed to be independent. The commissions, as Senator Hassan has said, are expected to be independent. But it looks like there is always an intimidation, a serious form of insecurity, that when these people get these positions, they go to EACC, they cannot be independent. They are running with names of things that they have not finalized.
Yeah.
They are accusing people, and then of course in this country it's like there is a clique of group of people with whom they will let the country move forward as long as they are not touched. But when you touch them, you must needs come down. So you see, Parliament is not even able to focus.
Would you ever seek elective office? You're now Treasurer ODM, 2017 fast approaching.
Can I tell you something? Leadership is leadership, whether you are inside or not. As I see myself today, I have contributed so much. as a leader in this nation, even without a portfolio.
And would you want to get a portfolio?
I am a Christian. When the time comes, I will seek my God. And if God tells me to go, I will go. And even if I don't go, to Parliament, I know that I'm contributing my part. But the question is, why are we always seeking to imagine that we need to change leaders when we Kenyans ourselves have not even looked at our fundamental decisions that make us elect these leaders?
So Kenyans need to reevaluate
exactly.
as well.
Let me clarify, number one, about the fools that my learned friend Hassan Omar is saying. I want to assure you, my member of parliament, Dr. James Wambura Nyakal, is not a fool. My senator, Professor Nyang' Nyong'o, is not a fool.
I was not talking about
so remove the two.
I was talking about code.
Let me now come to
code.
Yes.
I was talking about code.
On one side.
Yeah.
Let me now come to
I was not talking about code at all.
let me now come to the timetable. Let us appreciate that with regard to generating bills and passing legislation, Parliament, especially the National Assembly, has done very well, if you understand the Constitution. The Constitution 2010 came with a host of several legislative enactments that were required. Some were required within 1 year, some 2 years. In between, there were others, the maximum 5 years, with an extension of 1 year. In between, you had an election, therefore we didn't have Parliament. If you look at the work they have done and the work that is outstanding, I salute them. And I think they have done well. The remaining 28, within a period of 1 year, can be and will be done. This thing of people being fools and so on and so on, yet you know you're earning illegal salary that was not allowed by Sarasarem. You confess and redeem your sins first before you call others fools. I think they have done well. We give them the extension and then we finish.
I'm almost tempted putting you into that category now, because I think some of the things you say sometimes, whether they should meet the threshold of common sense even to the people. One thing I want to pass responsibility. It is Parliament. In the Constitution it says Parliament shall enact. So now whether he's trying to play the fool's game with the parliamentarians, because he criticizes them very, very negatively on a daily basis. So today he has got this soundbite from myself. Now he's trying to cash in. So suddenly his member of parliament is no longer a fool and everybody else is so much of a genius. You know, this kid game, you go and play it elsewhere. But that said and done, I can tell you it is Parliament. But and the Constitution then envisages a timetable with only one extension, and I think whether they had an election in between, they ought to anticipate that it's 2 years after the election. We ought to have anticipated.
So let's hear your thoughts as well on the election date debate, that the Constitution says second Tuesday of every August, 5 years. We now have people who want it moved to December. Where do you stand?
In Machakos, I was in a rally in Machakos. I was very unkind to my friends from Uganda. I think he has misled himself. We are not going to support that. At least I personally will not be supporting that with that amendment. If Ochieng and any other parliamentarian wants an extension, or not an extension, but wants a change of election date, we should not pass an amendment that benefits us directly. If there is a constitutional amendment, let it be for the elections of 2012, not 2022, but not of 2017. I mean, most of those young people who are running around, who I've referred to appropriately, are now realizing their foolishness might not pay off. So they want every kinds of extensions, you know. I don't mind, because our term limit might be about 4 years, because if we are to go in election in August, it means Parliament will be prorogued maybe around, June, July, and therefore it means we might have a much shorter stint as parliamentarians than others. But these are some of the sacrifices we make in transitions, because we went for the 2013 election on the basis of Supreme Court averment. So I think, in my assessment, we must stick to the 27th, to the August election date. If we must change and we feel as December is more appropriate, let it not be to our benefit that we are adding an extra 5 months to our term of office. Let it be for the 2022 election, if we think it is so inconvenient. And we look at the report of the Committee of Experts, look at the report of the Guy Commission. This issue was thoroughly debated and people presented their views why elections should be in August and not in December.
In December. Where do you stand?
I'm told when they're caught, they're not fools. for the first time now, we see this genius has come up with this issue of December elections. Our position is clear. The constitution is not going to be mutilated to just satisfy the interest of a few individuals. It is the desire and wish of Kenyans that the elections be conducted as per the constitution. What the gentleman is probably seeking is to extend those 6 or so months so that they continue earning salaries. But are we going to amend our constitution every time that we feel we need a few coins here, extra here and there? Our position as a coalition is no.
So this is for you purely a selfish ambition?
That is a called baby. They better carry it. The people of Kenya are not supporting it. We are not supporting this August thing. Okay. The December thing, please.
Yeah. CORD is a very democratic organ, and nobody stops any of our leaders from pursuing any goal that they so wish and they feel it is right. But I think all Kenyans agree that let us not waste our time mutilating the constitution, especially in matters election. The sooner we go for elections in this country, I wish we did it 2016, because we are tired of everything called a government in this country. The sooner we go, the better.
All right.
I'll face Kenyans and tell them that to amend that date, you need a referendum. So Mheshimiwa, bring it on and you will fail. Just go and ask Baba. Even the core Kenya has gone under the table. We are going for elections in August 2017. Prepare to win or lose. Finished.
Okay. I want to move our attention away from politics a little and talk about one of the issues that has been dominating news headlines. And you see what has been happening in schools, and some of these incidences that have been reported, from fires to students behaving badly, whether it's in matatus, and ask where we are going wrong and where, as leadership, you come in. Senator, I'll throw that to you. Yeah. You're speechless?
No. I didn't quite...
The schools.
No?
On the schools, on what's been happening, there's a lot that's been going on, and several questions have been asked about. Do we first have the right system in place? Number 2, why is there this seemingly, things deteriorating to the levels we've been seeing make news?
Oof. I'm as shocked as everybody when I saw that picture, but I am also not shocked, because I think the way we've marketed drugs in this country, pombe and anything else, we've made it almost an in thing. I've sat with people within my peer group and realized that we used to be less riotous during our times. We used to, people would be encompassed. Yes, we did go to the excesses once in a while, but it was in a minority field. But right now it appears to be something that is an in thing for everybody. And I think I agree with the bishop I saw over the weekend, that let's not just accuse those kids. We need to look at our own systems, our own morality. Is it a failing of the church and the mosque and the temple, for that matter? Is it a failing of our value systems? Is it a failing of our education system? I think the interrogation must be broad. Despite the fact that we do not agree with the means, President Uhuru Kenyatta just last 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago was fighting illicit brew. And the permeation of this illicit brew is not only the youth, it appears to have gone even to those below the age of the majority. And I think if maybe that bus that was arrested is likely to be a bus that provides a lane for the use of drugs of that nature. Maybe there are many more of those types of buses that students partake of this type of things. So it is like extra. So I think for me, it's an interrogation of our entire moral and value system as a country. The interrogation of the entire structure of the religious institutions. I think there's a failing on that account. There's an interrogation of our political system. It's our interrogation of our education system. Yeah, because one of the cartoons in the dailies today just says that pretty much depicts how the school kids are picking up and learning from the politicians. What they see them conduct themselves in the National Assembly, and a lot of that is sinking in. But tie that in also with what we've seen unfold with the churches, and I'm sure you've been following what's been happening with the accident that claimed one life, one is in hospital, and the attempted cover-up, it appears, from the very beginning. Sophia, I want us to face this thing.
from time immemorial, every generation has tended to blame the incoming generation of being riotous, immoral, and no respect our values. It is not beginning with the current generation. It didn't begin with us. Our grandparents probably accused and blamed us for being riotous, being non-conformists. We will blame our children, and they will blame their grandchildren. This is not something that started yesterday, 10 days. You all went to school, but now we are all playing holy. During drama festivals, during closure of schools, those things would happen here and there. We turned our face the other side as this thing grew and became a monster. So today we want to destroy and kill our own children because they have done in better way or perfected what we had started for them. I remember when we were in school, you would not finish a drama festival or a music festival without hearing of the girls from the other schools with the boys from the other school engaging in those kind of contests. What is important is that as a nation we must redefine our values, what we want to stand for, and start not just with the parents but the entire system.
Okay.
So that this blame game comes to an end. Otherwise it will continue, it will worsen until one day these things will be happening right inside the classroom as the teacher teaches.
Wow. Ogla.
Thank you that you talked about our moral values, because it needs to start with the leadership. The psychology tells us that a child is a clean slate, and a child can be made to become anything. In fact, one psychologist says, give me an infant and I'll either make him a robber or a priest. Now, other theories say that children perfect their parents and the society. The foundation of a child is a parent, and the society builds on that. So I want us Kenyans to face the reality. Most of us today are what we are, Sophie, because our parents paid the price. They denied themselves some things to be with us, to nurture us. When we came from school, we found our mothers in the houses. We saw our fathers coming home. They spoke to us about values. Where are the parents of today? Running after money, running after power, running after whichever corrupt deal and tender that is coming, and the children have been abandoned. So really, we must take responsibility and tell parents in this society that you can only become a respectable person, and you can only age gracefully if your children are grounded and stable. And time is not running. There is no time that is running. This issue of we must run into things, we must become leaders, we must be wealthy, we must drive a big car, we must do all that, is going to kill the whole of this nation. And like he says, we will see these things happening in our houses. Not the classes anymore, in our houses, my dear brother. And we will say, who has failed us? We will not want to take responsibility. Parents, go back and stay with your children. Okay. Talking about church, as a Christian, I want to say the religion sector in Kenya, as the moral custodian of society, has absolutely failed to a greater extent. Some may say, oh, some churches are doing well. But when you see some of these pastors preaching nothing but prosperity gospel, pastors who do not have any background or anything, don't even have businesses, don't even have any inheritance of anything, today driving the biggest cars. The other day someone came on TV and said in the same spot where this pastor's car hit somebody and killed, the same person hit someone last year and killed. Where is the law in this country? Yesterday in the newspaper, the newspapers reported that the same pastors are cursing people in their churches and saying, churches, and in other words, what we are saying is, even the churches themselves have failed this nation. In fact, I have concluded as a Christian that there is more cultism. Cultism, and a cult believes in gaining power and gaining money by killing others. It's about bloodshed to make money. Okay. So there is more cultism in Kenya than there is the preaching of the noble gospel. either gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ or the gospel of Allah.
Okay.
There is more occultism. So we must take responsibility.
Yes.
But at the end of it, Sophie, allow me to say,
Yes.
the children are also being, the evil in the children is seriously being perpetuated by the leadership. The children know nothing in Kenya today except corrupt leaders, fighting leaders, the leaders that are not in any way demonstrating any moral fools. Yes, the fools that our brother has said. So we must take responsibility. And if we are not careful, we will lose a whole generation.
So what is our hope, whether the church is, you know, all these activities we're seeing happening, the family unit appears to be crumbling, at least in the sense of what we're seeing playing out with the children?
Now, for me, you take my views as from the views of a Puritan. I'm a Puritan parent who believes in hard tackle. There are bare minimums. There are below areas you pass, we meet head on.
Okay.
Whether defeat me or defeat you, but their direction. I give direction until you leave my house. Then you can go naked, you can jump up and down. I do not think the church can resurrect what we kill in our own houses. Let us not blame the church, let us not blame the schools. We give a wrong direction, wrong foundation. There is nothing the teachers can do, there is nothing the churches can do. Let us start it right inside our houses. Let us try, so that even my policy is, let me try the way I know. If I fail, my consolation would have been, I tried.
You did your
And
best.
we get it. Let's get it on the basis that there is no school where you are taught parenting. There is no school. There are things you pick up and down, and then we are also advanced to reading. So we can't even read books, we can't even read the Bible. So it's a matter of trial and error. But I'm urging parents, whether single parents or both, you must try. And you try by setting certain standards that you try your family to reach.
Okay.
If you fail, and then you hope the church at the Prosperity Gospel, or you think President Uhuru is not doing the right thing, therefore your child has an excuse to behave like this, like that, you admit and say, I failed. Parents, wake up. The energy with which you pursue money should be the energy with which you are raising your children. And you better lack money and raise human beings that can look and build society than have all the money. And then they are all, you spend the whole of it trying to rescue your children from drugs. There is failing. We have failed as parents.
Okay.
And that is where we should start.
I want to agree with Weta.
Yeah.
In fact, I talked to one of my clergy, and he says, what am I supposed to do? Your kids come here, I give them the education I need, they walk out of the classrooms. Yeah, when they're here, they're all well behaved. So I think the council here, has a very pertinent point. It's the breakdown actually of family.
Family. And I just wanted to hear your thoughts, but that's a conversation that Michael will be having in the next few minutes. So do stay with us, because again, just going into what exactly is going on with our society, stand by for that. But before we wrap up, we have 2 minutes to go. Olo, I saw you have a press conference the other day about disciplining some members of TNA. Talk to us about who they are and what we'll be seeing happen. I think I had Joy Gwando's name come up, Kodia and others.
What has Joy done?
Yes, so he'll tell us.
We have served them with the summonses and the particulars of charges, and we have got the 3 members of parliament, Moses Kuria, Joy Gwendo, and Priscilla Nyukavi. 2 of them were tried at their branches. The charges were arraigned before them. Either they failed to turn up or they sent people. But the branches did find that they were culpable and forwarded their files to us. As for Mrs. Kuria, the chairman of the party has the authority to refer matters directly to the disciplinary committee. I don't want to try them in the media, but I can assure them and the entire TNA fraternity that the trial will be free, fair and transparent. And Sophie, it is time that we brought discipline into our institutions, be they our churches, be they our political parties, be they our schools. And TNA, these are not the only ones. We have got, remember the Nakuru saga with our MCS? We have 4 of them. We carried out an investigation. There was a recommendation that we must discipline them. Above all, actually, after I've completed with this first phase, I'm bringing in a whole horde of MCS and party officials. We must have a disciplined house. I'm hearing from other quarters saying that they are more concerned with JAP than TNA because that is where we are going. I'm telling them, so long as I'm the secretary of TNA, you will behave up to the last second, and the discipline will be paramount. We formed and vanquished the opposition because we were a disciplined unit. And even as we transit into JAP, if we do transit into JAP, we must transit there as a disciplined unit. So anybody who is daring me on this, please, I can only tell you what this place heads will have to run.
First, you made a point that I want to follow up before we hear from the other guests, that if you do transition into JAP, so is JAP now in question? You're unclear on its fate?
One thing is clear, that the two principals desire that we must have one unit.
If they desire, then it should happen. So the members have refused, and their will is
causing it to happen.
Okay.
But in politics, a day may be just too long sometimes. So we work towards transiting into JAP. And I'm telling you, as for the TNA brigade that I'm going to transit with into JAP, you must enter there as a disciplined unit.
Okay.
And just watch the space.
Ogla, I was seeing you smile, but I want to bring it back in terms of ODM, and we've seen a number of indisciplined cases. We've had there'll be investigations and all of this, and then it disappears. So what action has ever, if any, been taken against these people? Because we've seen whether it was the elections, the incident at ODM House the other day with some of the members attacking one of your officials who you later got out of the party. We never see the repercussions or whatever disciplinary measures are taken.
Actually, I smiled because I didn't want to interrupt, but I was going to say wish him luck. If he will succeed, we really need to bring discipline into our parties. And that is what we are also trying in our opposition.
Yeah.
And we really need to form ideological political system. Let me tie this to the other day. Of course, TNA have tried to rip on this. I felt very sorry for Uhuru that he even used the fact that he used the rebuke that Obama gave to the opposition as a validation to his leadership. And the reason that rebuked him was certainly because we don't have discipline. I wish he talked about, because this country do not have ideological discipline in political systems. So I wish you luck, my brother. But maybe I should just say, somebody should tell, and I think I should use this opportunity to emphasize that whereas indeed Obama may have rebuked some members of the opposition, two things are very clear. One is that certainly it was not my party leader Raila Amolo Odinga. I don't know.
How do you know?
Number two,
how do you know that?
Because he's been consistent. Number two,
but we have clips of him telling that you were soft.
Yeah, I get your point. It's good for us to laugh over this matter. But number two, a point that I've always wished I could say is that did we really have to wait for outsiders to come and tell us we are tribalists, we are corrupt? And finally, I know for sure that Obama's coming has moved a spiritual issue. And I know for sure that Kenya will not be the same. We may not see it today, but the repercussions will happen. He was sent here by God. Whatever he came to do, an altar has been moved, and I'm very grateful about that. An altar that was ruling this country.
Please,
from a spiritual perspective.
So how so? How so? What was
the altar of corruption, the altar of tribalism, and many other things. Let me tell you, I'm talking this time as a Christian. God had to bring someone from outside. Thank God it was a son of Kenya whose blood runs the blood of Kenya to come and remove this altar. So we can take glory, you can take glory for being, for whatever, but I know for certain
I want to say something about this.
Something has moved by Obama's government.
I want to say something very brief about the party discipline issues. Yes. I think I'm one of those in the competing school of thoughts.
We're doing our best.
But to the extent possible, also you must allow intra-democracy. For instance, if I'm to go by any speck of imagination, what could be the potential charges against Joy? Is this the perception that he's flirting around with ODM or code or something of that nature? And I think that even in my sense, that would be frivolous. In fact, there are a lot of such types of trivial kind of allegations against certain members within the Wiper coalition. And I keep saying that you cannot necessarily define. When I meet up with Onyango Olo to tell me that now I've probably flirted around, it depends on your value system. And I would agree with Olga to that extent, where you build ideological units, and if you want to cross over the ideological units, then you can do it. But the Obama issue, I think it's neither here nor there, because one thing Obama did say is that he disagreed with the strategy. That don't call on us when you're in parliament, out of power, and then out of us when you're not in power. When you're in power, he did not disagree with the message of corruption, EIBC, and whatever else.
All right. Finally,
I would say making or breaking this country depends on us. It's not on Obama. For me, I don't make much about Obama. It's about us. And the politicians from both divides, discipline is actually the key. From the violence in Kasarani to Orange House, I hope Secretary General, you are trying to avert such kind of conduct in TNA. Do it fairly, do it
also
properly.
Wiper
has been fairly quiet. Wiper has been fairly quiet, I hope, and the Secretary General, apart from the foolish word, the Secretary General is doing a good job, the party leader. We would like to see discipline so that we also want to take leadership in political parties. Otherwise, the way it's chaotic. I sympathize with you as treasurer. I know there's no money you are keeping. You don't even know where the money goes.
Okay. No, nobody takes the money. I'm confident of that.
We're going to end it there. Ambrose Weda, who's a lawyer. We have Ogla Karani, Treasurer, ODM, Secretary General TNA, Onyango Olo, and the Senator of Mombasa County, as well as Secretary General Wiper Party, Hassan Omar. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.
We wish you a lovely week. That's the way it is, as my guests have put it today. Stay with us when we return. That conversation on what is happening with our society, that moral decay we're seeing starting all the way from our children in schools and also in the church. We've seen some incidences there as well. Stay with Morning Express.